Welcome to Back to the Futures, the official podcast of the Futures Collegiate Baseball League, presented by ChangeUp. I'm Owen Chadwick, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Johnny Maffey. Johnny, how are you today?
I'm great, Owen. Thanks to everyone for tuning in, whether they're watching or listening. We have a great interview today with, for a little bit, he was the manager of the Nashua Silver Knights. As we're recording this Saturday, I was at the game last night. Their coach, Kyle Jackson, got tossed. Ariel came in. He sent Nick Remy out to the mound. Nick had 3 shutdown innings after Wyatt Scotty threw 7 strong, and Nate Goranson and the Silver Knights walked it off against Vermont.
Yeah, that was certainly an exciting game. Myself, personally, I visited Westfield and Pittsfield this week. Pittsfield for the first time since the All-Star game for me. It was great to be back in that atmosphere. Wacona Park is such a historic park, and shout out to Matt Gedman and everything that the Pittsfield Suns are doing over there. But yes, we had Ariel Ramos, the assistant coach for the Nashua Silver Knights, on this podcast. He was great to talk to. He has such a unique perspective for the game and the league, among other things. And we don't want to hold you up anymore. So without further ado, we present our interview with Ariel Ramos.
Let's roll.
At this time, we are honored to be joined by our next guest, who's in his second year as pitching coach in Nashua and his third year in the Futures League. It's Ariel Ramos, pitching coach for the Nashua Silver Knights. Ariel, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
Guys, I'm doing good. It's my pleasure to be here. I'm honored to be here.
Yeah, we're honored to have you, and we're really excited to get this interview started. And right off the bat, how has this summer been so far with this return to normalcy after the wild year that was COVID-19?
It's been really good. I mean, just having the fans back, having the kids on the field again, just having a feel for normal, the kids coming up and running around the bases and, that interaction with the fans, it's been great. We've missed it last year and just happy that everything is back to normal or close to it.
Yeah, close to it for sure. And one thing that didn't miss last year was the Silver Knights. You guys won the 2020 Futures League Championship, which on this podcast, Kyle Jackson gave you a lot of credit for helping accomplish. What was it like winning the title at the end of the year and getting that bling on your finger?
It was quite an accomplishment. I mean, it was almost a sprint because obviously like the year before that, typically the Futures League, we're playing 56 games. This year we're playing 68. It felt like it was a dead sprint. In the beginning, it's kind of, we started 0-3, so we didn't know what to expect, but we kept the kids positive and the organization had our back. The organization was very supportive of what we were doing, and it was fantastic. I'll never forget those moments, especially that series against the Bravehearts. It was quite amazing.
Yeah, it was very exciting, and you guys came back and came out on the right side of it. So whether it's last year or this year, walk us through a game day. For example, this weekend you have a home and home with Norwich. What are you telling your pitchers tonight? What are you telling your Sunday guys to do tonight? What's that like?
The biggest thing every time that I have a meeting with the staff is just building that relationship and having them build that trust where it's, if I give a suggestion, it's like, hey, what do you think about this? Just being in tune with that. It's been great. When I do have the meetings, it's like, hey, make sure the only thing that you could control is the next pitch. Regardless of what you threw, the previous pitch, let's just try to be aggressive, try to get the batter out as less pitches. That way we could keep you in the game to be most efficient. So those are the types of conversations that I've been having lately with the guys, is just trying to keep their morale out as a staff or as an individual, and just kind of going from there. It's been going well.
Yeah, so we certainly saw that morale last night. We're recording this on Saturday for the Monday release. So Friday night, you guys walked it off. Wyatt Scotty threw a great game, 7 innings, 2 runs, I think 5 Ks, no walks. And then Remy came in and threw 3 scoreless, some big punch outs for him. That was intense the whole way. So how does it feel having that come all together for a great 3-2 win like that?
It was great. I mean, Remy came in and he had a perfect opportunity, and I'll walk you through before we even started the game. We had a talk. We needed a little bit more depth in the bullpen, and we were just going over it, and he felt like when it was his next time to pitch, that opportunity, he was going to pitch with a chip on his shoulder. And that's exactly what he did. It showed a different side to him. We could rely on him on closing out those games. So I think the conversation that we have with him in the next couple of days is going to be something geared towards that, is making sure it's like, hey, we need that bottom end depth. We have, Driscoll, we have Murphy, but he also gives us more of that depth towards, to close those tight games.
Yeah, and whether it's Remy or Scotty, you just named a couple of pitchers who have had success this summer. And one of them in particular, Nick Arena, who found so much success last summer. He was on the All Fcbl first team. He was a big part of your championship run. What was it like working with Nick, and what has impressed you most about his game?
I'm telling you, it's these D3 guys, they go out, especially like Garino, he goes out and it's just like, I don't care who is going to bat against me. I don't care if he's from this top Division I program, whatever it is. He's like, my goal is to throw my best pitch. Whether you hit it or not, it's up to you, but that's the only thing that I control. So it's just that fire that you have with these Division III guys, that they want something to prove, and he's always proving day in and day out that he could hang with these guys. And that's what he showed last year, and that's what he's showing this year as well. He's very consistent. He's been throwing very well for us.
Yeah, absolutely. We've noticed that as well. So whether it's D1, 2, 3, or in the FCBL, you can have high school guys even. How do you develop pitchers over a summer? Because some guys you only have for a few weeks, but some guys you have, from May to August. How do you do that? And what do you send them back to school with?
If they need work on something, but they're not in tuned and hearing you out, they're not going to get anything out of it. And I think that's the big conversations that we have with the individual player. It's like, hey, what do you want to get out of summer ball? Do you want to get just innings in? Do you need an off-speed pitch that you want to work on? Is there a type of location? Keeping your feet underneath, using your lower body more efficiently, staying loose, through the release into deceleration. Like those are the type of things that I have conversations with the pitchers. It's like, hey, what do we need to work on? And what's your goal? What's your obtainable goal that you have today in order to meet that? So when you go back into your program, into fall ball, they go in and the coaches is just like, wow, this is totally different. It's working. Ball's moving a lot more. He's a lot more efficient. He looks a lot more smooth. And that's what I take pride in as the pitching coach for Nashua.
Yeah, and kind of as a follow-up to that, do you ever face challenges with motivating pitchers? Obviously, these kids are here to kind of transition to the fall, and some might not be as motivated. So basically, what are your biggest challenges as pitching coach, if you have any, when trying to reach these pitchers?
I think what's actually helped me is talking to these individual pitchers about not so much about baseball and what they could do on the mound or in the bullpen. It's life situations. So I use a lot of with my guys. It's like, hey, I relate, let's say like today's topic was accountability. So I would tell them, hey, in the Marine Corps, I went through this and that because of lack of accountability. And it just kind of brings that in together. That way they could formulate their strategy and their routines to kind of go based off of that. So I try to take them away from baseball. That way they could kind of just step away, realize what they need to do and what adjustments that they need to make in order to come back and make those routines and make those adjustments.
Yeah, you certainly have credibility there for when you talk about things like accountability. We'll definitely get to some of that later. But you're certainly a well-respected member of the Futures League. You're with North Shore before you were with Nashua. So it's been 3 years, I think, now for you as a coach here in the Futures. What's your experience been like in the FCBL overall?
I think it's been great. So I'm also a pitching instructor for Striker Performance LLC. I just started it last year, and I wanted to get into stuff like that because what I've noticed in the game, whether it's in the high school, college level, even in the pros, it's starting to trickle in, is the development of the individual player and using their strengths and making sure that you're working on their weaknesses. So I think this league has done a very good job on just making sure that player development is on top, and making sure that the players are getting their reps, making sure that they're getting their at-bats, their innings in, working on the side. I've talked to other pitching coaches and other managers in the league, and that's the good thing, is that everyone's working together to make sure the common goal is to make these players better and to get them on to the next level.
Yeah, that's great. And it's very important to do that as a pitching coach for sure. We wanted to ask about Bill Trelecki, obviously a very important part of the Navigators, and so devastating to hear of his passing. And we wanted to ask you specifically, what impact did he have on your life, and what were some of the most important things that you learned from him?
I'll actually tell you before that. So I'll tell you how I even got the job for Navigators. He played a huge part. He played a huge part in my life and as a mentor. I used to sell bats. I owned Griffin bats, and what I did is I presented bats to him, and we used to, communicate. They used to buy bats off of us, and some of the teams in the league. But I was working on my master's degree and at Endicott, and I went to Bill and I was like, hey, I need an internship. And he's like, yeah, sure, just send me your resume. So he looks in the resume, he's like, why do you want an internship? You're just gonna be, cleaning and doing all this stuff if your resume is just all pitching. You played, you coached. He's like, luckily for you, there's an open spot. So I can still remember one of the last conversations that I had with him before his passing, and he's like, hey, Ariel, he's like, I'm gonna tell you the truth. He's like, I'm in the 6th inning of a 9-inning ball game. And I was like, I understood exactly what he was getting to. But the atmosphere that he brought, it's every day that you're able to step in the ball field and talk to your players and stuff like that, that is a complete blessing. So I got that's what I got out of it, is understanding that it is a privilege to be, a part of this league and to impact these young players and their development. But it's a blessing to be able to wake up each day and be able to put on your uniform and to be able to mentor players and just to make to make a positive influence on the organization as a whole. And that's what I got from Bill, and that's what I try to carry on to every organization that I go to. Or my business that I do, is just to make sure that I'm positive every day, and it's a blessing. It's a blessing to be a part.
Yeah, we never got the chance to meet him, but we've only heard great things.
Oh yeah, he was one that if I'll tell you, he was a straight shooter. If he didn't like something, he would grab you, he would tell you exactly what it was. So I admired that about him, and that's something that, as a coach, I try my best to try to carry on, is to make sure that I give my guys the utmost respect, but when they need the feedback, whether it's positive or negative, the constructive criticism, I give it.
We'll be right back to our interview with Ariel Ramos, but first, we want to share a message from our friends at 78 Sports. Do you have kids playing baseball or softball? We all know practice time is limited, especially here in New England. Not to mention the cost of lessons and cage time can add up quickly. Save yourself time and money by giving your kids what they need to work on their game at home. Our friends at 78 Sports can help you put together the perfect at-home training setup. Whether you want to start small with just a tee and hitting net, or looking to set up a full cage with turf and a pitching machine, they have you covered. The team at 78 Sports has designed and installed hundreds of home and commercial sports training facilities, so let them help you plan the perfect setup for your space. Visit the 78 Sports website at 78sports.com. That's SEVENTY8sports.com. For a limited time, just by mentioning Back to the Futures, you'll receive a 10% discount off your order. That's SEVENTY8sports.com. Now, back to Ariel Ramos. So there was a Ted Williams-like hiatus during your playing career. You served in the United States Marine Corps. You had a long deployment in Afghanistan. First of all, thank you for your service. When did you decide to be a Marine?
I had a chance to go to the Dominican Republic after high school, and I went out there with Detroit, and I was so naive that I had an opportunity to sign, and I felt like at the time, I was worth a lot more than what I really was. So what I ended up doing is I ended up coming back home. I worked a little bit of construction. After that, I took a year off, and then I went to Northern Essex Community College. Then I was doing Homeland Security, and we had a guest speaker come in. He was a state trooper, a Mass State Trooper, and he wore his uniform. And I'm like, man, you know what? That's what I want to be. I don't want to be a baseball player anymore. I seen the politics, what was going on in the Dominican. I wanted nothing to do with it. So I just wanted to get away. And I spoke with the state trooper, and he told me, he's like, hey, you know what got me into this was the Marine Corps. And I was like, you know what? That's what I want to do. So when I joined the Marines, that was my goal in the beginning. And then it completely changed when I was in. I thought I was going to be able to do 20 years and retire with a pension and do all this, cool stuff. I was in slot to do, the special operations stuff. And my deployment to Afghanistan completely changed my life. It completely changed my perspective of life and how valuable life is, where life could be taken away in an instant. So just making sure, preparing and all that stuff. But that's what kind of led me into it. After that, I got out of that deployment, thank God. And from there, I decided to go back into baseball. I just needed something else. It was just a void that I needed to fill. And I made contact with at the time, Coach Pine, JP Pine, which he's been an inspiration and a mentor to me as well, as Bill was. And he's like, hey, he's like, come to Daniel Webster and let's see what you got. Let's see, what you could do, after 4 years of being away from baseball. So I was blessed to have that opportunity to come back and be able to play at the collegiate level.
We're going to get to that other ring you won with Daniel Webster in a sec as well. So you touched on whether it was accountability that you talked to with your players or learning how precious life is. What are some of the other big lessons you learned from being, whether it was in Afghanistan or the Marines in general?
Being able to just put the team and the mission ahead of yourself, ahead of your well-being. So I learned, as being a non-commissioned officer, as an E4, as a corporal and as a sergeant, it's not about you anymore. It's about your troop welfare. So that's something that I've been harping on the staff about this year. It's like, hey, you guys see me, I'm trying to do my best. I'm throwing batting practice. I'm hitting fungo. I want you guys to understand that I'm doing this to the betterment of the team and the organization. So I think that was the biggest lesson that I've had, is just to make sure that when you're in a position to lead, you don't lead from the back, you lead from the front. So, and I've been fortunate to do that in Nashua, and the support that I've gotten from the organization has let me do that. And I thank them every day.
Yeah, and thank you so much for sharing that with us.
You're welcome. It's been an honor.
Thank you for your service.
And my honor, my honor.
All right, so when you returned, you talked about it. You went to Daniel Webster. You were the 2013 NECC champion. You were a major part of that pitching staff. What was it like to come back after so many years without playing baseball?
I'll tell you this, and it's funny because I was looking at the newspaper clipping not too long ago, and JP spoke about it, and he was just like, hey, I went out to mound visit, and this was against Rhode Island College out in Florida when we were playing, and he does, I go in and I'm walking the house, and he goes and he comes in, and he's like, hey, what's going on? I was like, hey, I'm just a little nervous, I just got to breathe. He's like, nervous? You were just dodging bullets, in Afghanistan less than a year ago. He's like, what are you talking about? He's like, no, you do what you got to do, stay relaxed and stay within. And I'll still remember that conversation, and it just kind of brought it up the other day when I looked at the newspaper clipping. But it's just having, JP at the time just kind of bringing me down to earth. It's like, hey, this is a game, just relax. Don't be so uptight. You don't have anything to worry about. You're the one controlling the game as a pitcher. You control every single pitch, right? Nothing happens until you throw the pitch. So I've been fortunate to have JP to help me out with that in 2013. And that was a fantastic year. I mean, I went in, I was there in January. I was a transfer. So I wasn't there in fall. And those guys, that team was, they brought me in like I was there with them playing for 4 years. Like
that's even crazier. So you just showed up in January?
Yeah, I showed up in January. I was doing my own work before then. And I'm telling you, I remember the first day of practice, the players, they're hugging me, and I'm just like, who are these guys? Yeah, they're hugging me and shaking my hand and joking around with me, and they brought me in, and they've supported me throughout the time, and even that, after most of those seniors and juniors graduated, they were still coming back and supporting us, while I still had the, junior and senior season. It was great support from them, from JP, from the assistants from Nate Goulet at the time, from Mike Miller at the time. It was good, and their families as well.
Yeah, when we confirmed this interview, I read that newspaper clipping and got a smirk out of that too.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's funny.
Yeah, no, it was definitely magical. So it was, we were the first team in history to go into regionals and win. We ended up beating MIT. I started that game. That was the game. So we lost to Southern Maine the day before. So we won that game to go into the semifinals against Wheaton. And Wheaton ended up beating us 3-1. It was a close game, but we were there. So it was good. It's a good experience.
And you talked about earlier how Bill Trelecki read your resume and told you that you should become a coach. Was there any other indication that you were like, oh, I want to become a coach? Basically, what led you to want to become a coach, even if you didn't?
It was the timing of it. Like, honestly, like going to Endicott, working on my master's in general management, I was like, look, I want to work front office. I want to see if I can make some type of impact, leading the front office, which it'll trickle down all the way to the player. I didn't know that I was going to have a chance to be a part of the field, being on the field, being one-on-one with players on an everyday basis. So having that opportunity, I think the timing was godsend. It was great to be able to do that. Other than that, I mean, I didn't think, and I've talked to, that's another conversation that I've had with the staff, is that first year when I ended up signing my contract to be a pitching coach for the Navigators, I didn't know. I was nervous because I didn't know that I had enough information, that I could pass enough information to these players to help them. I just felt like I didn't because, I was overwhelmed. In the staff, we had guys that were going from these, Division I schools, top tier Division II schools and all this stuff, good Division IIIs. And I was like, how am I going to be able to relate to these guys, to my experiences and my knowledge of the game and pitching, the analytical part of it, but also the mechanical part of it on how to, throw efficiently. So, but I think after that year in building those relationships and those bonds with those players, I was able to do that, and we had a lot of success that year. And it was attributed to those relationships that I had with those players, but also doing the research that I needed to do to make sure that I had the information, or I was willing enough to go look for it to put them in a good situation to succeed.
Yeah, and you've certainly helped a number of players succeed. So that's awesome that you continue that through the Futures League for sure. And we wanted to ask, of course, we're recording this on Saturday, as mentioned. We're releasing on Monday, and the day in between is Father's Day. We wanted to wish you a happy Father's Day, and
Thank you.
And ask, you actually had your second child during the 2020 season. So what is it like to celebrate Father's Day as a dad, and what was it like experiencing kind of a Futures League baby, if you will, during the summer last year?
It was absolutely nuts. I mean, K Jackson tell you, my wife, she was getting what is it, so it's like they weren't contractions. They're Braxton Hicks or whatever they were called.
The Braxton Hicks contraction.
Braxton Hicks, yeah. And she was getting those, and I'm calling K Jackson. I'm like, hey man, I'm not gonna be able to make the game. I think the babies do. And that lasted for like 3 or 4 weeks, like every single day until August 6th. Going to the hospital, like we couldn't even leave the hospital. Like we had to wear the mask, throughout, the delivery, after, post delivery. It was nuts. And then on top of that, going back to the team, the team was so supportive. I was getting text messages from the guys. When I would go back, it's like, Coach, hey, is the baby out yet? And I'm like, not yet. I think tomorrow. But what was really special when we won, Katie, our assistant GM, brought it up. She grabbed the trophy. She's like, hey, put the baby inside of it. So we put Asen inside of the trophy, and then we take a picture of it. And we have that picture. It was great. It was phenomenal. Every time I look at that picture, it brings me back to that game. It was quite amazing.
That's fantastic. And yeah, I was on the field when the baby was being put in the trophy, and I was just laughing. That's so funny.
Yeah.
And before we get to our final segment, how about a message to Silver Knight fans?
I'll tell you this, Nashua, playing in Nashua at Daniel Webster College having the support that you guys have given me and given our programs in Nashua, whether it's, Daniel Webster, whether it's the Silver Knights and all the other colleges in the surrounding area. I just want to thank everyone for the love and the inspiration and the support that you've given us, even through this tough time through COVID. Last year was kind of scary because we didn't know what to expect, like if we were going to have a season or not. And if it wasn't for your support, I don't think we would have made that happen. And I just want to thank Nashua. And it's been a blessing to be a coach in Nashua. And let's keep it going. We appreciate you.
Yeah, Johnny talked about it. The crowd the other night was electric. So hopefully they can keep that up and keep it going for the rest of the summer.
It was right there. It was like a championship game. Like it was, we had to have at least over 1,000 people there. Everyone was cheering. You know how it is at Holman Stadium. The fans are like right on top of you. So it's like, it was a defining moment, I think, in the team where we had a good meeting beforehand. We had a transparent meeting where the meeting was, having, getting the intake of what the players thought of what the streak that we were having and what we needed to do. But I think when everyone's seen and realized that, hey, it's not about us and how good or how bad we play, but it's about our fans in Nashua, I think that's what kind of stepped it up, and that's what brought everything together.
Yeah, and that's going to be fun to see for the rest of the summer for sure.
Before we get back to our interview with Ariel Ramos, we want to share a message from our friends at On Demand Storage. Are you tired of living in clutter? Do you need more space around your home or office? Are you sick of visiting your self-storage unit? Does your business need a way to securely and conveniently store excess materials? On Demand Storage will pick up your items directly from your location and put them in storage for you. When you want something put back, give us a call and we can deliver it back right away. We bring convenience to the outdated self-storage process. Visit ondemandStorage.com and submit an inquiry. During sign-up, mention the Futures League and receive 50% off your storage pickup. Once again, that's ondemandStorage, all one word, .com. We now return to our interview with Ariel Ramos.
And we now move on to our final segment. It's called Quick Hits. It's presented by Zephyr, the official on-field hat of the Futures League. Zephyr, high quality and innovative design since 1993. So Ariel, we have a couple more questions for our audience to get to know you better. Is that cool?
Absolutely.
Let's do it. Favorite player that you've coached in the Fcbl?
Oh, that's a tough one. Favorite player? No, it's not really that tough. It's Nick Guarino. Like I said, he's a fierce warrior on the mound. His routine, the stuff that he needs to do beforehand in order to compete. I mean, he's asking me days before his start, like, hey, I want all the numbers on this team, all the stats, who's righty, who's lefty. And he's taking all that stuff in. He's taking mental notes. He's also taking his own notes and taking inventory of what he was doing. He's open to suggestions on what type of pitch to throw into different batters, tunneling and pitch designing to make him effective. And man, I'm telling you, he asks me questions sometimes. I'm just like, hold on a minute, just give me a little bit. Let me go look for those answers, because he's definitely in tune with the game. His IQ is up there. So it's always a pleasure to have Guarino back, the second year in Nashua. So I think he would have to be. Nothing against to the other guys, right? I still talk to the 2020 team. I still talk to some of the Navs guys that I had in 19. But Nick Guarino is definitely, he's a hard worker, and yeah, he's definitely the player.
Yeah, we saw that in tuneness with the game in episode 1 when you talked to us. So that makes a lot of sense that you would say.
Right.
Sure.
It was tough. You guys put me in a tough spot, man.
You're not the only one we asked, though, so don't worry.
There's, I'm saying, in those 3 years, I've probably had to see maybe 80 pitchers, and all unique in their own ways. And I've had really good relationships with the majority, if not all of them. So
we're here for that hard-hitting reporting.
And then how about your favorite ballpark in the Fcbl and a ballpark in general that you've attended as a fan?
Man, Holman. I wouldn't trade Holman. I wouldn't trade Holman for the life. It's just the history of Holman, that old school feel that Holman brings, the fans when they come in, like yesterday was amazing. And regardless of what we've gone through the past 6 or 7 games, we've had that many people show up to our games. Mad Dog cheering and beating on his drum. We've had people cheering us on and supporting us. Like, and it's just the atmosphere. I joke around with the guys. I'm like, literally, Nashua is the equivalent of this league, like Fenway Park is to Major League Baseball. It's just that atmosphere, the fans, the field, and just the environment, the support that you get, from the organization from the top down. As a fan, I actually, Norwich, if I would have signed with Detroit when I went to the Dominican, Norwich would have been my stop as an American citizen. So I actually had a chance. I was stationed in Groton, Connecticut, which is like right next door. So I got to go to one of their games, and I think that has to be the second best field in the Futures League. Then again, I haven't gone to Vermont yet. We haven't gone to Vermont yet. That's this week coming up.
Yeah, that'll be an exciting trip. And Dodd Stadium is very nice, as
Right.
we've said multiple times on this podcast. So for sure. And then how about a sports stadium or sporting event that's on your bucket list?
Ooh, I've already gone to Foxborough. I'd really like to go to the Marlins Stadium, the new one. I've gone to Yankee Stadium. I've gone to AT&T Park, but I think just seeing that new stadium would probably that's one of the only stadiums that I haven't gone to yet. So I'm looking forward to that at some point. I gotta wait till the kids get older. That's not.
Yeah, family trip for sure.
Yeah, family trip.
And how about favorite big league team and big league player, whether it's current or historical?
I grew up being a Red Sox fan, as you could see. To my right, to my left, I got the old Yankees with Mariano Rivera, Derek Jeter, and all that. I grew up as a Red Sox fan. I love the organization. I love the field going into Fenway, getting the goosebumps going in. Historically, has to be Pedro Martinez, just because of his electricity, as a player. He was short by average as a pitcher, but he showed so much heart. Like, he was 5'10", 5'11". They had him listed. I think he was shorter than that. But every time that he went out there, his main focus was to pound the strike zone regardless of who was coming. So I think that fierce intensity is something that I, as a player, when I pitch, it try to emulate. I had a chip on my shoulder. It's like, I'm going to blow it past you. I'm going to make sure that I throw my best pitch, and it's going to have intention, and I'm going to throw it with conviction.
Yeah, that's mine too. I've been 45 for quite a while because of him. So when you walked up to the mound, what was your walk-up music?
So it was funny because we heard it the other day. It was Daddy Yankee Gasolina. I'm old school, so I heard it. I forgot where it was. I forgot what team it was, but they played it, and everyone's like, it's like, yeah, I haven't heard this song since middle school. I was like, I was jamming to this song in high school. Yeah, so it was Daddy Yankee. Yeah.
That's awesome. So are you superstitious at all, whether it was when you were a player or now as a coach?
No, so I've always don't believe in superstition. I believe in faith, right? I'm a Christian, so I believe in Jesus, and the plans that he has for us. That's what I was talking to you guys about, is timing. I think at the Navs, being at the right place at the right time gave me the opportunity to be the pitching coach there, to have the opportunity to meet K-Jax and, in the Silver Knights organization, and to be able to make an impact there. I believe in that. I believe in fate rather than superstition. I joke around with the guys. I'm like, man, I'm going to shave off my beard, or I'm going to do this and do that, just for giggles. But no, I don't believe in it.
And when you're going to the game as a fan, what are you getting at the concession stand?
Oh man, I'm getting a pretzel. That's what I'm getting. I don't drink, so I'm getting a pretzel and probably a soda, some sort. But then again, you have, like, I honestly think too, in Holman, we have some of the best food. The Creedon Catering Company does a great job. The cheeseburgers are great. I think if it's not the pretzel, it's definitely going to be the cheeseburger.
Yeah, definitely. The Credence have treated us to some of those as well. So thanks to them as always. And are you a bubblegum guy or sunflower seeds guy?
I am a bubblegums guy. Yeah. But I like the mint flavored. I'm not so much of the old school, you know. And if I do seeds, it's gotta be, it's just the salted ones. I don't like the I'm just a regular guy. I'm very I guess you could say, just original. If I'm gonna do the sunflower seeds, it's just the salted ones. It's not any of the ranch or the barbecue or any of that.
Yeah, I remember in Little League, I had like one of the flavored ones, and my hands are sticky the rest of the game, and I haven't had them since. So this might be a tough one because you have a couple rings, you threw a no-hitter. What's your all-time favorite baseball memory?
All-time favorite baseball memory, it has to be last year winning the championship. And the reason why I say that is because I had my family there. Support that I have with my wife and my kids, wanting to be there, and just having the newborn there, and then just having that conversation. I remember, sitting back with KJX. He's like, "Is this your first one?" I was like, "No, this isn't my first rodeo." He's like, "You seem pretty relaxed." He was just kind of nervous, moving around. I'm like, "Don't worry about it. If it's meant to be, it's gonna be." But I think it was last year winning that championship with the group of guys that we had. It was magical. It was great.
Yeah, it was so fun to watch from the press box and the sidelines, and it was awesome to see you guys come out on the other side. It was fantastic.
Yeah, no, it's
Well, Ariel, thank you so much for joining us today. Best of luck with everything, and we can't wait to see you and the Silver Knights at Holman Stadium all season long.
awesome, guys. I appreciate it again. It's an honor to be here. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Ariel.
All right.
This has been episode 13 of season 3 of Back to the Futures, the official podcast of the Futures Collegiate Baseball League. We have new episodes coming out every Monday and Thursday. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see everyone soon.